Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining for the last session of our 4-day sustainability webinar series, Leveraging RTPark's Resources for Success. My name is Yihan Wang, and I'm the Business Development Advisor for Sustainability at the RTPark. I'll be moderating today's webinar. I hope you all have got a chance to tune in the sessions in the past 3 days, and I hope you've gained valuable insights and perspectives on sustainable development in the U.S. Virgin Islands and the sector-specific investment opportunities. Today, we'll be connecting the dots and discuss opportunities to capitalize on the U.S. Virgin Islands' emerging competitive advantages by leveraging the financial and the technical resources of the RTPark. The RTPark is an economic development program that's dedicated to bringing public and private stakeholders across varied industries to build safer, more sustainable, and more inclusive economies. So for today's agenda, I will quickly run through the topics and the speakers. First of all, it's our great pleasure to welcome Peter Chapman, the Executive Director and the CEO of the RTPark, to provide us an overview of the organization and open up the session. Next, we'll welcome our Director of Business Attraction and Entrepreneurship, Eric Sunier, to provide us a few key programs we have at the RTPark. Then we'll turn it over to Erica Killerhouse, an experienced local tax attorney, to walk us through tax incentives in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Lastly, we will have Siobhan Chaupa, our Senior Manager of Compliance at the RTPark, to walk us through the process of joining our programs. Finally, we'll have a 20-minute Q&A session, but please feel free to use the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen throughout the webinar for questions or comments. It will be monitored throughout the webinar. The attendees will be in listen-only mode during the webinar. The slides and the recordings of the webinar will also be made available via email in the next few days. Now let's welcome Peter Chapman, the CEO and the Executive Director at the RTPark, to provide us an overview of the organization and open up the session.
Sure.
Peter, please take the floor.
Thank you, Yihan, and good afternoon to all of our listeners and our viewers, and also to my colleagues and friends from the Virgin Islands. Again, I'm Peter Chapman, and I'm ED, Executive Director and CEO of the RTPark, and we have scoped out for you what we believe are some informative, very informative sessions on sort of the nuts and bolts of financial and technical resources available to companies that choose to come to the Virgin Islands and become affiliated with the Research and Technology Park. And so before we get into those details, I wanted to take just a few minutes and really set the stage by providing some background and context on the RTPark's mission and also our strategic focus. So for those of you who have been part of this discussion for the last 3.5 days, this may be a little bit redundant, but I think it bears, some of this information bears emphasizing before we get into the nitty-gritty of financial and technical resources. So as Yihan alluded to, the RTPark is we think, a very innovative economic development organization. We were actually started in 2002, but we didn't become fully operational until 2006. And we were established through a legislative action by the General Assembly of the United States Virgin Islands as a means of really helping to diversify and expand the economy of the VI, particularly by harnessing our assets to grow the cluster of technology, knowledge-based, and sustainable agriculture firms within the Virgin Islands. We also work to broaden the capabilities of the University of the Virgin Islands by providing the university with financial support and training opportunities for students. And we are an independent affiliate of the university. And I think sort of putting us in some national or global context. So if you're looking at our organizational structure through the lens of how things are done in the United States or in other, industrialized nations, we could best be described as a public-private partnership. So we have a mission-based focus, but we have, a legal structure that gives us independence from the public sector, which enables us to be nimble and creative and to be able to respond to shifts in the marketplace in a very expeditious way. So in terms of our sector focus, we concentrate on a number of market segments that depend heavily on science, technology, education, and math. So on STEM on a STEM educated workforce. And this makes us unique among economic development organizations in the Caribbean, although there are a multitude of peer organizations across the mainland US and in other regions that look and function similarly to us. And this is according to data from the State Science and Technology Institute and also the Association of University Research Parks, which of course are two of the leading trade associations for tech-based economic development, both nationally and globally. Our companies fall under broad commercial sectors classified by economists and public policy experts known as advanced industries, advanced technology services. And many of the RTPark companies currently operate in areas such as data analytics, e-commerce, software development and licensing, telecommunications. But over the past 2 years, we've really expanded our sector focus to include a greater emphasis on healthcare and life sciences, financial technology, and of course, entities operating in the sustainable development space, which of course is why we are gathered here for this forum this week. Our work falls into 4 closely interconnected categories. So when people see our name, they automatically assume that we do research, and we don't do research, at least not directly. We are, at the end of the day, a very sector-focused, aggressive economic development organization. So let me briefly walk you through really our 4 lines of business. One is business attraction. So we are actively involved, and you'll hear from Eric Saunier in a few minutes. We're actively involved in proactive, sector-focused efforts to attract certain kinds of companies to the U.S. Virgin Islands. And so that sector focus also overlaps with the geographic focus. So obviously we are focused keenly on attracting more companies to the Virgin Islands from certain markets and submarkets on the mainland US, but we also have a keen focus on harnessing opportunities from other parts of the Caribbean and also from East Asia. And I should indicate that last year, we really started in earnest our East Asia strategy, specifically as it relates to Southeast China. So the Guangdong region of China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan are a critical focus for us. And we solidified a partnership with an entity called Brink Accelerator, and Brink operates similarly to our accelerator program. And this partnership does 2 things for us. First, it provides us with a platform from which to engage with technology companies in the East Asia market. And it also gives our companies, whether they are more mature technology companies or early stage companies, it gives them a platform from which to explore partnerships for growth and expansion in the East Asia market. So all of that is a quick way of saying that we have an aggressive, sector-focused and geographically targeted business attraction strategy. Business acceleration is another core part of our model, and Eric is going to drill into this in a few minutes. But we focus on business acceleration, not just because it sounds good, but because as people who are very data oriented, we recognized that most economic growth occurs in regions not just through the attraction of new companies, but through the acceleration of promising early stage firms, as well as through the expansion of existing firms. And so if you look at data from places like the Urban Institute, the Brookings Institution, you'll see some compelling data in this regard that really bolsters the work that we do. So we're very proud of the fact that we started an accelerator program last year. We're now on the second cohort, and we've not been deterred by COVID. So we're doing the second cohort almost entirely virtually. So again, Eric will talk to you about that and the very impressive global network of entrepreneurs that we've lined up to serve as mentors in our accelerator program. The third major area of focus for us is talent development and talent acquisition. So we recognize that as an island jurisdiction, I guess I can't call us an island nation, as an island jurisdiction, we have some challenges very often in terms of being able to respond in a quick, expeditious manner to the talent needs of tech companies within the Virgin Islands. And so we have conceptualized and begun the soft launch of a program that we call Vista Plus. And this is really a database that helps us tap into folks within the Virgin Islands diaspora who have certain skills and certain educational backgrounds so that we can quickly share information on these individuals with technology companies within our ecosystem that have immediate and short-term needs for certain types of talent. And so we will also be talking about that during the course of the afternoon. The other program that we've recently initiated within the realm of talent development is something called VI STEM Kids. And this is a program that really does two things. Number one, it acknowledges that, coding is really the foundation of computer programming. And secondly, it acknowledges the importance of really cultivating an able and capable workforce while these individuals are young. And so this is a program that targets children that I believe are ages 9 to 12, and we deploy our technical assets and resources to take them through an intensive coding education curriculum. And so we've just gotten started on BI STEM Kids. We've had some challenges as a result of COVID, but this is a program that we expect will become a marquee talent development program, just like our Vista Plus initiative. The fourth major area that we are focused on is what we call physical revitalization. So place-based revitalization, for those of you who are familiar with the language of urban planning and community development, And so this involves large-scale real estate development that we undertake in an effort to really expand the complement of amenities that are available to those in the tech sector. So our first major project in this area is one that we've been working on for a year. It is called Tech Village, and it is a mixed-use project that will consist of new office space, spaces for tech firms, housing, market rate apartments specifically. We are going to be building a 4-star hotel, and we are also going to have at least one additional very specialized structure specifically for renewable energy and sustainable agriculture companies. And so this is a, we think now $42 to $45 million project. We expect to break ground in Q1 of 2021. And this, again, represents the RTPark's foray into the world of large-scale real estate development, but not real estate development just for the purpose of doing it, but really for the purpose of expanding the amenity package, growing the amenity package for tech firms. So I highlight this holistic approach to technology-focused economic development to reinforce the fact that when you become affiliated with the RTPark, you really become part of a broad network of stakeholders, and that network is available to you as you try to grow and scale your company. So I'm going to pause there and say that Yihan concludes my formal remarks at this juncture. So I will take a step back and give the floor back to you so you can introduce our next speaker.
Great. Thank you, Peter, for the comprehensive introduction and an overview of the programs we have at our RTPark. Next, we'll welcome Eric, the Director of Business Attraction and Entrepreneurship at the RTPark, to provide us a detailed introduction of key programs at the RTPark. Prior to joining the RTPark, Eric was the CEO of a few tech enterprises. He also received an MBA from the Harvard Business School. Now let's turn the floor to Eric. Please take it away.
Thank you, Yihan. I'm going to share my screen, so just let me know when you can see it, and I will move forward. And while I'm setting this up, I wanted to take the time to just thank and congratulate Yihan, who manages everything sustainable within the RTPark, and also our 2 summer fellows, Brian and Mengxing. I haven't been on the screen during the past couple of days, but I've been listening in the background, and everything has been pretty incredible. So kudos to you guys for doing such a great job on this.
Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So I'm not going to take too much time. Again, my name is Eric Saunier, Director of Business Attraction and Entrepreneurship here at the Research and Technology Park. But I did want to just spend a few minutes and touch on some of the programs that we have. Peter mentioned a few of them, but I'll go into a little more detail. And at the end of my presentation, I have my email address will be on the screen. And so if you want to learn more about any of the programs, you can, of course, reach out to Yihan and her team, or you can reach out to me directly. So just to get started, we heard Peter talk a bit about business attraction, which the RTPark has done a great job of for several years, almost a decade now. But one of our newest and to us most important initiatives is really the Business Acceleration Program, and we have named it Accelerate VI. So really what this is a way for us to tap into the local entrepreneurship ecosystem. What we've done traditionally in business attraction is find profitable businesses globally and really bring them to the territory and help us build our tech cluster that way. But as we joined, again, all of this team has really been here 2 years or less. One of the things that we wanted to focus on are the tech entrepreneurs that are already in the territory, either grew up in the territory or lived here for a certain number of years, and helping them to grow and scale their businesses. And so we launched the Accelerate VI program. And the goal here is really to find a business at its sort of infancy, figure out what they need in order to grow and scale, and help them do it from the territory. We don't want to lose entrepreneurs, tinkerers, innovators to the mainland US, where they can go and have access to certain tools and resources and build there. We want to be able to do that here in the territory. So it is a 3-month program, which is typical of most accelerators. The idea is really to accelerate the learning within that 3-month window. So if any of you have started businesses, you understand that a lot of what you do and learn is really only through experience. And so the goal of the program is really to replicate that. But instead of taking years to learn how to build a company, we try to condense that into a 3-month program. And that's really focused on 3 legs of a stool. One is mentorship. So we've tapped into a lot of not only RTPark clients, but also mentors that are from the territory that have gone off to do incredible things in the tech world in other places. We've tapped them to become mentors, and they've been glad to do that. But in addition to that, we've also built a very comprehensive curriculum that covers everything from building a business plan, go-to-market strategy, marketing, and even fundraising, because we know it's important to get capital into these early stage companies. And then last but not least is really the peer network that you get within a 3-month program. So not only learning from mentors and other experts, but also learning from people that are at a similar stage of their journey as you are. And the goal is for these companies to grow into what we call traditional RTPark clients over the years and continue to help us spur economic development in the territory. For those of you that are out there listening and kind of curious of what are the qualifications, all of this information can be found on our website, not only the RTPark website, but acceleratevi.com is the specific website for the accelerator program. But just to quickly touch on the requirements for people that are in the sustainability space and interested in coming to the territory at an early stage and building their company, or if you're already here, really we're looking for businesses that are either registered in the USVI or willing to move here and register their business in the USVI. We want someone who has put a little energy into it. So not just an idea on a napkin, but someone who has actually taken some steps to make it reality. Businesses that are scalable. So really what we're saying is we want to focus on tech or tech-enabled businesses. So we understand the importance of small businesses. That's not exactly our wheelhouse. We want to work on businesses that we can start here, but have the mindset to grow globally as soon as possible. Again, we want to help early stage companies. So we really focus on companies that are below $500,000 in revenue and also have raised capital of less than $1 million. And then there is obviously a programmatic policy that we make sure that every one of our accelerated companies both agrees to and adheres to as they go through the program. For the sake of time, I'll just kind of breeze through this. This is, we launched this program last year, 2019, around this same time. So again, it's in its infancy. We recently finished cohort number 2, which we did through the summer months and had to launch virtually because of COVID-19. But you can see some of the stats on this slide from our first cohort. In less than a year, these companies were able to increase their revenue almost to $300,000 collectively, but also raise funding. And this is a difficult time period in order to raise capital, but we've seen these numbers and these companies raise over $1 million. And I'm personally helping quite a few of them that are going to raise even more this summer. So very excited to see the results. And also we think it's a testament to the talent that was already here. We just help put some pieces in place to help them grow and scale. Another one of the, I wouldn't call it a program, but a feature of the RTPark is a co-working space that we recently finished in downtown Christiansted, roughly 2,500 square feet. It will be the future home of Accelerate VI once we switch from virtual to whatever the new normal is. But we will house all the programming in the Accelerate VI co-working space. But in addition to that, and one thing I wanted to highlight on this call, because I know there were entrepreneurs on this call and business people that are interested in the RTPark, is that we're going to open it up to freelancers and entrepreneurs, the same way you would think about a WeWork or any other co-working space in the mainland US. And so we will have space, whether you're renting desks per week or per month, but we'll have space for people to come in here and work. But also it's important for us to all collaborate and build that ecosystem together. Next, Peter mentioned this very briefly, but it's our VI STEM Kids program. We can focus on entrepreneurship at the point in which people are building companies, but we also want to ingrain this in the minds of the youth within the territory. And so we've launched just this summer, the VI STEM Kids program in collaboration with the Caribbean Center for Boys and Girls of the Virgin Islands. They have 3 locations, 2 on St. Croix, Frederiksted and Christiansted, and then 1 over on St. Thomas in Bavoni. What we've done is built a curriculum to help introduce these youth in the Virgin Islands to coding. We don't necessarily think all of them will become developers, but we know that understanding and learning about coding at a very young age opens the mind to STEM related fields, and that's really what our goal is here. This was made possible by a generous contribution from one of our mentors that is a part of the Accelerate VI program, but also someone who's born and raised in the territory on St. Thomas that is now an executive at IBM and has worn many hats when it comes to STEM related fields. Her name is Rashida Hodge, and she, through her generous donation, we were able to not only provide the guidance and facilitate the program, but also give each one of the children that participate in the program their very own Chromebook so that they continue learning and using that once they're at home. So extremely proud of this initiative. We've had some kinks because of COVID-19 and having to go virtual, but for us, this is just the start, and we will continue to do this and grow it and touch many more young lives in the Virgin Islands. In addition to that, we're introducing a coding boot camp for people that are of working age. We're working on a partnership with Flatiron Coding Boot Camp, which is based out of New York, in order for them to provide the programming to people in the territory. One thing or 2 things I'll highlight about this partnership and this program that will roll out within the coming months is that one, Flatiron prides itself on their employment rate. So it's one thing to teach people how to code, but it's another thing to ensure that they get jobs after this. Hopefully we can place a lot of the graduates in careers within our RTPark client companies, but also we want them to be employed across the territory overall. So that is a big reason why we're doing this program. And then the second part is that we want to offer free childcare to people who may need that. And so we understand that that could be a hindrance to people participating in a program like this. And we want to remove any barriers or friction that would cause someone not to be able to participate. And again, if anyone is listening and interested in this, feel free to reach out to learn more information. And then last but not least, talk briefly about Vista Plus, which is our Virgin Islands STEM talent archive. The easiest way for me to describe it is kind of a mix between LinkedIn and Indeed, where you have people creating profiles that you can easily search and understand what their past experiences are, what sort of certificates and education they've received as it all relates to STEM. But then you can also search and find people that are interested in maybe coming home to the territory in order to do the types of jobs that they're already doing in the mainland US. They just aren't aware of the opportunities. So we will have employers, local employers that are able to post what their upcoming job opportunities are. And so the idea is not only to track people that are already working in these fields, but also any high school graduates that are interested in STEM related fields and maybe going off to college and want to return for internships, and also UVI students that are in earning degrees that relate to STEM related fields. They will all have profiles and be accessible through the Vista Plus program. And the idea is really to help reverse the brain drain. So through some of the other initiatives that I've mentioned today, we've realized that there are amazing, talented people that grew up in the territory that are not spread out across the world and doing amazing things in the areas of STEM. And we want to connect that community back to the U.S. Virgin Islands and hopefully help us grow our tech ecosystem here in the territory. Again, wanted to keep it as brief as possible, but if you're looking at the screen, you can see there's my email address. Feel free to reach out to learn any more about any of these opportunities. If you don't catch this now, you've been receiving emails from Yihan. Feel free to reach out to her, and we'll route these questions to the appropriate people. Again, thanks Yihan for the opportunity to speak today, and amazing job with what you and the team has done so far.
Thank you, Eric, for the presentation. Like Peter and Eric mentioned, we are really trying to build a comprehensive ecosystem for entrepreneurs to survive, to accelerate and grow in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Next, we'll have Erica Killerhouse, the local tax attorney who have worked with us on a number of client companies to walk us through the tax incentives in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Erica, please take it away.
Thank you. Hang on, I'm just going to share my screen with you guys. Can you guys see this? Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Erica Kellerhals. I'm a tax attorney here in the Virgin Islands, where I've been practicing for about 30 years. 20 years, sorry. One of the primary areas that our firm does practice in is the tax incentive space here in the territory. There are a couple of different incentive programs here, but in recent years, we've sort of seen the largest number of companies moving through the Research and Technology Park program. You know, when I talk to people about tax incentives, one of the things that they always say is, oh my God, this is too good to be true. And in a lot of ways, it does sound too good to be true. But the great thing about these programs that we have here and the ability to grant tax incentives is that our ability to grant tax incentives is actually authorized by Congress. So there is a provision in the Internal Revenue Code that allows the Virgin Islands to reduce or emit taxes on income that is sourced or effectively connected to the territory. And that's what I'm going to talk with you about today. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the sourcing rules and how you can figure out, you know, how you can optimize the incentives available to you if you move your company here, but also how you can personally optimize the tax benefits as an owner of an entity that has benefits. Because it's not just the entity itself that would be eligible for tax incentives from the park, but it's also the individual owners have the ability to take benefits on their own personal tax returns. So I'm going to just sort of briefly list out what the RTPark incentives are as far as tax incentives, and I know Siobhan's going to touch on them as well when she talks. Essentially, the Virgin Islands has created a program where you can get an income tax credit up to 90% of the tax due that's derived from the business that you're doing here in the territory. In addition to that, it also offers an exemption from local taxes. And that's important because the U.S. Virgin Islands is one of the few jurisdictions that still imposes a gross receipts tax. And the gross receipts tax is as terrible as it sounds. It's a 5% tax on your gross receipts without any deduction for expenses. And I always love to tell our beneficiaries, enjoy your gross receipts tax exemption, as I cringe a little on the inside writing that check every month. So, but in addition to the gross receipts tax, you also get reduced withholding on dividends, interest, and royalties payable to foreign recipients. We understand that some of these companies are going to take on investors that aren't going to be located in the territory, so you won't have to, you'll be able to reduce the withholding that you would otherwise have to pay. And there's also no withholding on payments to U.S. persons. I'm going to talk a little bit later about sort of structuring, because there are some things that come into play with regard to structuring after the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So I know that you guys have spent a couple of days working with the park, sort of seeing what's available at the park level, and probably have a really good idea of how your company could fit into this. But then the next thing you need to figure out is, okay, so we want to do this, but how do we do it? And how do we make sure that we can maximize the value that we're going to get? I'm going to skip over the sell and the park tenant agreement because I'm going to let Siobhan talk about that. And I really want to focus on structuring a business that's going to maximize these benefits. As I noted before, the two biggest things that you need to be concerned about are whether or not you're generating income that's sourced or effectively connected in the Virgin Islands. And unfortunately, these are Internal Revenue Code definitions. So you can't just, wish your income to be sourced here. You actually have to look at the code. And there's a bunch of technical sections in the Internal Revenue Code. I note them on the PowerPoint, 861 through 865. But for the RTPark companies, particularly the ones that we've brought here previously, the way these startup companies work and the way these technology companies are working, it's sort of a perfect fit for the sourcing rules. So for example, we have a technology company that charges fees for the services that it's providing here in the territory. And the Internal Revenue Code says fees are sourced where the services are performed. And these guys have, their office space in St. Croix, they have all of their employees working from there, and they're providing their products or they're providing their services from there. All of that income is going to be sourced in the territory. All of that income is going to be eligible for these benefits. So these are the things we would actually want to look at when you're deciding what's the right fit. We're really going to get down into the details of what it is your business is doing and how you're generating your income. The IRS actually did something really nice, which I know is not something you hear too often. But back in 2006, when the RTPark was in its infancy stage, they released a notice that actually gave perfect examples of sourced income that was sourced or effectively connected to the territory. And in doing so, they actually focused on technology companies, but the language in the notice that was provided to the IRS, by the IRS, is actually applicable to a bunch of different areas, a bunch of different types of businesses. But essentially what they said is, we're going to give you these explicit guidelines of income that's going to be eligible. And in particular, they focused on development and sales of computer software and the application service providers or software as a service providers. So that actually gave the park itself and the practitioners a really great starting point for looking to see the types of businesses that we could attract. One other item that I did want to mention that may be relative to some of the people on this call is that manufacturing also comes into play with the RTPark, and that there are mechanisms under the statute that will allow you to source or effectively connect inventory sales income to the Virgin Islands. So I don't want you to think that it's just sort of service as a software as a service or application service providers or people who are actually performing services from here located in the territory. If you're building product in the Virgin Islands and you're actually exporting that product outside of the territory, that is another avenue for getting tax benefits in the territory. And we're actually seeing, as more and more manufacturing companies are looking to come back into the United States, this has become a great opportunity not only for the Research and Technology Park, but also for the Virgin Islands, because anyone who's manufacturing in the US Virgin Islands is actually able to use a Made in the USA sticker on their product. So we're now getting a lot of questions and a lot of inquiries from companies that are looking to engage in federal contracting with respect to PPE, companies that are looking to work with state and local and federal government on sort of technology projects. So I don't want you to think that we're just talking about companies that are performing services from here in the territory. So one of the things though that we do need to be careful of is How do you structure entities where you don't have full ownership in the vested in bona fide residents of the Virgin Islands? And I'm not going to go into the details because we'd be here for about 3.5 hours if we start talking about controlled foreign corporations and GILTI. But individuals who reside in the territory will be able to take a tax benefit on their dividends and distributions from the RTPark company. And as I mentioned before, a lot of these companies will have outside investors that are not bona fide residents of the territory. It's very, very important that you meet with somebody who understands how these programs work and how the U.S. Virgin Islands works in respect to the United States, because there can be some significant tax consequences if the structuring is not done correctly. And one of the reasons for that is, in the Virgin Islands, we use the Internal Revenue Code as our own territorial tax code. But U.S. Virgin Islands corporations are foreign corporations to the United States. So that brings up a lot of issues relative to controlled foreign corporations, and also brings up an issue with respect to the global intangible low taxed income provisions of the 2017 Act. I'm not going to get into it. It's very technical. The only thing I will tell you is that if you are deemed to be a CFC, you potentially have some negative tax consequences. So that's definitely something that you want to talk to an advisor about as you sort of plan coming down to the Research and Technology Park. Now, the best part of getting involved in the RTPark program is the ability to move to the Virgin Islands. In order for you, as I mentioned before, in order for you to get benefits, you do have to be a resident, a bona fide resident here. Again, that is a defined term under the Internal Revenue Code, and it's actually a 3-part test for becoming a resident. The first is a physical presence test, and in order to meet the physical presence test, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. The first is you can be here for 183 days a year. The second is you can spend no more than 90 days in the United States. You can also spend more time in a possession than you do in the United States and not have earned income exceeding $3,000. You can have no significant connection to the Virgin Islands, and that essentially means that you don't own a home there, your family's not there, you're not licensed there. That one's typically a little more difficult, but the nice thing about that one is that it doesn't impose on you a specific number of days. So you have to actually be physically present in the territory for at least some period of time. When we're talking to new investors, sort of anticipating the amount of work that's going to go into setting up an RTPark company and thinking about what it means to actually be a bona fide resident, you know, I always say the easiest test for you to meet is 183 days. And that includes days of travel. So if you're going to the States or you're coming back from the States, that day is included in the 183. But I think that is, you know, I hate to talk about auditing. There has not been a lot of auditing happening. But anytime we've had a question raised about residency, when we've been able to show that a taxpayer has been in the territory for 183 days, we don't really have any more questions about the return. The second test that you're going to need is closer connection. This one's super easy. If you are moving from New York to California, what are all the things you're going to do when you move from New York to California? You're going to get a new driver's license. You're going to register to vote. You're going to file a change of address. Essentially, that's what it means to have a closer connection to the Virgin Islands. So you're going to come down here. You're going to get a VI driver's license. You're going to register to vote. You're going to file a change of address. You're going to notify your alumni association and organizations that you belong to that this is now your new home. So that one's a pretty easy test. There's 10 items in the regulations that the IRS looks at to determine whether or not you've met the closer connection test. And again, the easiest thing I tell people is imagine you just moved to another state, do exactly the same thing. And finally, in order to be, the third test for being a bona fide resident and taking tax incentives is tax home. That's essentially where's your principal place of business. You know, where do you live that when you travel away from there, you create deductible expenses for business purposes. That means, you know, that you have a presence here, that you have a place available for your full-time use here. and that you are engaged in business travel and you can write off those expenses. 183 days in some circumstances seems very difficult for people, particularly with being able to travel back and forth to the States effectively. There is an ongoing, there is a group that is engaged in ongoing discussions with the Department of Treasury and the Internal Revenue Service about making the residency rules a little bit easier to deal with. And a lot of that work we do through the Office of the Delegate. And, you know, we're constantly looking to them for some flexibility due to the fact that we are on a very small island in the middle of the Caribbean. And from time to time, they actually are accommodating. One of the things that Treasury did was after the hurricanes of 2017, they actually gave a blanket exemption from the date of the first hurricane through May 31st and said any of those days that you spend outside the territory is not counted against you and is treated as a Virgin Islands day for purposes of meeting your number of days or meeting one of the physical presence tests. One of the things that they most recently did was they said, if you travel outside the US Virgin Islands and you travel outside the US mainland for 30 days, what they call 30 international travel days, will allow you to count those days won't count against you and will allow you to count those as VI days. It's not as generous, so most people said, okay, great, now I only have to do 153 days in the Virgin Islands if I spend 30 days overseas. It doesn't actually work that way. It works out to about 167 days because you still have to spend more time in the VI than you do in mainland US, but it still gives you a little bit more flexibility than you had previously. So just to recap, the items that you're going to need to look at when you're exploring the RTPark program to see whether or not it works for you are, first, what kind of income are you generating? And can that income be sourced or effectively connected to the territory? There's a couple of practitioners here in the Virgin Islands that specialize in the RTPark program and in tax incentives. And you know, there are some attorneys and accountants that we deal with in the States that are familiar with these programs, but those are really the important questions that you have to ask right away. And then the second thing is how fast can you move to the Virgin Islands? Bona fide residency is important. It's important for a lot of reasons. One, residency is important for you to be, to avoid being classified as a controlled foreign corporation and having some adverse tax consequences. But it's also important for you to be able to grow your business here, that you're actually here on the ground, working in conjunction with the university, not only to facilitate the growth of your business, but to also work with the park, with the university, and to sort of get involved on a hands-on basis with some of the great programs they're running. So I'm happy to answer any questions when Siobhan's done. I think she's going to talk a little bit about the technical requirements of the park. As I said, most of our companies have been going through the Research and Technology Park over the last year or so. And the reason for that is they have made it a wonderfully efficient program to work with. I cannot say that there are a lot of things that are very efficient in the US Virgin Islands, but I can say that the park is extremely efficient. They're extremely responsive to potential beneficiaries, and they're really, really efficient at getting you through the whole process and getting your business off the ground. So I'm going to turn it over to Siobhan to talk a little bit about the technical side of the park. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Erica. Siobhan, now I'll turn it to you to talk about how to join the RTPark program and how to become an RTPark client company to access all the tax incentives Erica just talked about. Siobhan, please take it away.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. As Yehan said before, my name is Siobhan Chapa. I'm the Senior Manager of Business Development Operations and Compliance here at the RTPark. So my primary function, I would say, is being that liaison between companies who have an interest in the park and the park itself, and walking the companies through the application process. Because there is, although as Erica said, we are pretty darn efficient, there's a lot that goes into the process. So if you are, after everything you've heard over the last 4 days, are excited about the possibility of coming to the Virgin Islands and starting your business here, you will be spending quite a bit of time with me. So before I get into my actual presentation, I just want to show you guys the actual full list of, oh, where did it go? The full list of tax incentives that's available. This document, if you go to the RTPark website, which is uvirtpark.net, and you go to the resources tab and then the downloadable documents tab, you'll be able to find this document as well as another one that I'll talk about later that really summarizes everything I'm going to talk about today. So this is just the incentives, these are the incentives that are available. So as Erica said, 90% reduction in income tax, exemption on taxes on your properties, exemptions on gross receipts, excise taxes, taxes on raw materials if you're doing manufacturing, and then again, if the benefits can apply to shareholders, members, partners, and that all that good stuff. So like I said, this is available on the RTPark website, so you guys can go and get that document directly. All right, so let's go into what we're going to talk about. So you've gone through everything you're excited about coming onto the RTPark. So how do you actually do that? So first off, these are the people that you're going to be talking to. So you met Peter, who's our executive director. You met Eric, who's our director of business attraction. I'm Siobhan, and you all know Yihan very well by this point. And she deals with all of the companies who have interest in sustainable development and sustainability. So, you know, all of the people that have tuned in for the last 4 days, she's going to be a great resource for you. So the application process, we've really streamlined this so that we can get it done in 90 days. We've done it in less. Erica's firm has the record, 53 days from start to end, which is pretty impressive. So if you want to go, you should definitely talk to Erica. So the first stage is your screening and pre-application. So this is where we get to know you, you get to know us. We talk about what your company is, what you're doing, and just make sure that you're a good fit, that on both sides. We'll go through the requirements of the RTPark, but you know, we want to make sure that you fit in with our sectors, but also that you what we offer is going to be beneficial to you. So the second stage is the term sheet development. This is where we talk about the terms, what's actually going to go into the business deals side of it. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then the formal application, which is the part that takes the longest. This is where you're going to register your business, set up your entity, do all that stuff to get you actually physically registered here in the Virgin Islands. I'll go through that as well. So again, 90 days is our goal, and we can do it in less. So we can move as fast as you want to move. So the first stage, making sure that you're a good fit, is the primary document that we use for that is your business profile. So this is going to be a document that tells us what your company does. It's going to tell us about the principals. We want to know about anyone who is an owner in your company, your background. We want to know about your targeted business sectors, trends that are in those areas, areas of interest that you have, and the company itself and the owners, because I'll talk a little bit more about what happens with UBI, but we want to tie your interest into what you're committing to when we're setting up the terms. And then the last part is the financial information. So we want to know both your projections for the first 5 years of your business, as well as any financial information you can give us on an entity that is currently in existence. A lot of the times what companies do is they have an entity that exists somewhere else that they want to either transfer completely to the Virgin Islands or transfer a part of it. So we just want to know any relevant financial information that relates to the entity that currently exists, even if it's not here, because that will allow us to see where your projections are coming from. So we use this document and we put together the term sheet. So the term sheet is where we kind of codify the terms that are going to go into the final document. What we often call it.
Siobhan, sorry, if I can interrupt. I think your screen is stuck. I don't know if it's just me, but maybe unshare and then reshare.
Sure. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Let's try again. All right. How are we on the?
Yeah, it's
slide?
It's working now. Yep.
Cool. Okay, so the terms that we set, this is done through discussions, of course, with the company principals, and then the RTPark has what we call the client review team. So it's members of the park in the business development side, the financial side, that all work together to review your application and determine what is appropriate. So from the RTPark side of it, there is 4 aspects to the business deal. I'll go through it quick, but there's an initial certificate fee, which is a one-time fee you pay at the beginning. There is annual management fees, which are fees that you pay annually. And then there is an equity percentage. So I wanted to point on this because it kind of relates to what Erica was talking about in terms of the protected cell. So the way I like to think about it is it's kind of like a jellyfish, and the RTPark itself is what we call a protected cell company, and that is just the term that was put into the code for what we can do by offering the tax benefits. And all of our companies are the little tentacles that come off of us. So in order for companies to be able to get the tax benefits, they have to be essentially part of the RTPark itself. So in order to do that, we take an equity stake in all of our companies. It's often, most of the time, very small, and in some cases, there's no distribution requirements or anything like that. This is dependent on the company and negotiations that we make, but we are required by statute to hold an equity stake in all of the companies, and this is what allows you to have the tax benefits. And then the last part is what we call the buyout fee. So company contracts are 15 years with the option to extend for another 10, and then again, potentially for another 5 for your benefit lengths. If you determine that you need to, for some reason, exit prior to that, there's a fee associated to basically buy back your equity stake. So it's the buyout fee. So that was longer than I planned for that. But that's basically the RTPark side of it. And if you go again to the website and you go to the downloadable documents tab, there is a document that's called RTPark Program Guide, and this outlines all of that. So you can see, if you didn't catch everything I just said, it's all there. So the other part of the term sheet is the commitments to the university. So one of the exciting things about the RTPark is our tie with the university and what can come out of that relationship for the companies and the university itself. So the companies commit to the university in 2 ways. The first is scholarship commitments. So every company commits a minimum of 1 scholarship a year to the companies, and that's really, or to the university. And it's really important because the university, through these scholarships, allows students who really would not be able to attend otherwise to attend. And the amount of money that the RTPark contributes to the scholarship fund is wonderful, and a substantial amount that really allows a lot of students to go. So this is a great aspect of what the companies give back. The second part is where it kind of gets fun. So these are our programmatic commitments. So every company will have a conversation with the president of the university, talk about what the company does, what the passions are, what the university is looking for, what their strengths are, where they might have some weakness right now that the companies can assist with, And together through those discussions, you come up with some sort of commitment that relates to what the company does specifically that they can then give to the university. So sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's a commitment of time. If there is a program the university needs assistance with that the principal has expertise in, they can donate some time to assist in growing that program. So there's some really great things that have come out of these tier 2 commitments. The university's entrepreneurship program is funded by an RTPark client. 13D, they really have done wonderful things for the university, and their whole entrepreneurship program really comes through that RTPark client. So it's really exciting the things that can be done within that partnership. So all of those terms are put together into the term sheet, and that goes in front of our board of directors. So the RTPark is a self-governed entity. The approval process goes through our board of directors only. So there's 2 points in the process where you will go through the board of directors, and the term sheet's the first one. I will say that the RTPark, we have become, we know what we're looking for. We know what the board is looking for. So I'm going to knock on wood right now. But in my almost 5 years of being here, I have not had a company that we presented to the board that didn't go through, because we know what we're looking for. So myself and the team will help you put together a package that really will suffice for what the board requirements are.
Excuse me, Siobhan, I don't think your slides are, okay, now your slides are changing.
I'm just talking a lot.
No, just make sure the slides works.
So once we get through the term sheet, this is where you start your formal application process. This is where Erica is really going to come in. This is where she becomes really important, because this is where you're going to really set up your organization. You have to register in the Virgin Islands. So we would want to see the articles of incorporation or organization, depending on what type of entity you're setting up, of course, certificate of existence. There's all sorts of stuff that goes into this package. We also do background checks on all of the principals of the entity. So it is important for us to make sure, it's important for the RTPark to know and really be sure of who, and confident of who we're bringing in, not just the entity itself, but the people that run it. So we do the full background checks. Those are done by an outside firm. And in that package also includes a statement from your legal representative and a tax analysis from your legal representative. In the program guide that I referred to on the website, there's a list of attorneys in the Virgin Islands who are familiar with the program. So, you know, we want to send 50 companies to Erica, but there's only 24 hours in the day. So there's a list in that document of other attorneys who can help you as well. But these 2 documents are extremely important. They verify from an outside source that you are indeed a knowledge-based entity, that you're the sourcing, then the effectively connected revenue that Erica was talking about. These are all looked at and verified through an attorney, and they provide us with a document that verifies this. So once that's all done, we get to the final agreement, which is the park tenant agreement, and that is where everything goes into this one legally binding document. That again goes in front of the board of directors, and then welcome to the RTPark. So I talked a lot right there, but it is really, we have it down to a pat and a science, and we can get you through this as quickly as you want to get through it. And then you get all of the great benefits and all of the programs that Erica talked about, and Erica talked about the benefits, and you're ready to go. So your next steps are going to be talking to us directly, of course. So you can go through Yehan. She can set up meetings with the appropriate people if you have interest, if you want to get any more information about anything we talked about today. That document I talked about, the program brief, is going to be a great resource for you, because it has all of this information in it, some outlines of what we're looking for for your business profile and the financial information. So that's a great resource for you if you are interested. And then I will hand it back to Yihan, and thank you guys for listening to me, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you, Siobhan, for your presentation. Now it comes to our Q&A session of the webinar. We'll have Mengqing, who is our summer fellow at the RTPark, to select a few questions, and the panelists will answer them live. Otherwise, we'll answer them after the webinar. Mengqing, please take it over.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so first I want to thank all speakers. Your presentation are very clear. And thank Peter for answering some questions in the chat. I think of the interest of time, we'll be addressing 2 questions here. So Peter, I know you answered 1 question in the chat, but do you want to share your opinion with everyone regarding the question about Sustainable Agriculture Act?
Sure. Yes. Thank you, Mengqing. So I received a question about our Tech Village project. So I think because details and facts matter, I want to hit the high points. So the Tech Village project is really a sustainable agriculture anchored project. So the dominant commercial component of the project in terms of the businesses that we will house are sustainable agriculture. So this project is going to be, all phases in somewhere between 42 and 45 million, even though we've been saying 40 million just to deal in round numbers. We have multiple sustainable agriculture companies. At least one is local. A few are non-local that are coming into the market. One of the hallmarks of the project is partnership between the companies and farmers. So we've been working very closely with entities like VI Good Food Coalition, with Lewis Peterson, Professor Peterson, at the UVI Agricultural School or Ag Extension Program, to ensure that the model substantially involves empowerment of local farmers. So that is the dominant characteristic of it. I know that there have been some questions and concerns about using agricultural land for non-agricultural uses. 60% of the land, at least, will be used for farming connected to those agribusinesses. And for the agribusinesses themselves. So these companies are going to have either regional or global headquarters on the site. They will generate 300 jobs at least for farmers and graduates of the UVI Agriculture School. The remaining acres, so the remaining acres equate to 12 acres. Those acres will accommodate the housing, and the housing will be what we call affordable market rate housing, and the hotel. And the other dominant characteristic of this project is that a portion of the revenue will be used to capitalize a fund that we're calling the Fund for Agricultural Progress. That's just a working title. And those dollars will be used to leverage maximum investment from national and global foundations so that we have a sustainable resource for farmers to support commercialization, to provide technical assistance, myriad forms of technical assistance, to provide funding for supplies for anything that they need. This funding will be provided in the form of grant support and eventually microfinance. So the resource that we hope to create with the revenues from this project will be a value added. I'm not aware of anything else like that in the territory. Now, for the question, how did you select the location? We selected the location based on the following criteria. So number one, you need money for any community development project, which is what this is, right? So one of the resources that we're tapping, and it's a critical resource, is called the Hbcu Opportunity Fund. That stands for the Historically Black College and University Opportunity Fund. And it was set up by the Kresge Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation, so two global foundations. And they require that these projects, that the projects that they fund have the following characteristics. Number one, it must be located in what's called the federally designated opportunity zone. And if you look at how the opportunity zones were drawn in St. Croix, and they weren't drawn by the RTPark, they were drawn by, I believe it was the previous governor of the territory. A substantial portion, if not most, of the opportunity zone encompasses farmland. And so that's one criteria. It has to be located in the opportunity zone. The other criteria was the project has to be directly adjacent to an HBCU, which is what UVI is. The other thing is that the project has to be fully mixed use, which means that it has to include a residential component, a teaching hotel, which is what this hotel is. It's not just an ordinary vanilla hotel, and also some commercial component, which for us is agriculture, because that is one of our principal target sectors, and it also is in keeping with the strong agricultural legacy of St. Croix. So when you look at the zone of eligibility, the physical zone of eligibility, it's a very, very small number of areas that would qualify for this type of investment. And so I'm sure we'll have ongoing discussions with the community. We started the conversation with the legislature last week. We are addressing the issue of the land. We think we might be able to come up with something that is interesting to address the concerns around land. I'm not going to get into that right now, but Meng Ching, that is my hopefully comprehensive response to the questions.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Peter. So as you said, the project is very complex. So if the participant you want to get to know more details about that, please direct contact Peter or other people in RTPark to get more information.
Yep. Absolutely. So the other person who can address this issue in a very informed way is Sydney Paul, who I think is also on this call. So Sydney is my co-project manager on Tech Village.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have time for one more question. So the question is about the funding for Tech Village. The question is, can you tell us more about how the funding for the RTPark Tech Village came together?
Yeah, so it's this in a nutshell. So we wanted this project to be overwhelmingly privately financed, and that is the model that we are employing. So roughly 85 to 87% of the funding and financing for all phases will be private capital. That is the only way to make it feasible. It's very difficult to do a project of this scope and magnitude with public money, although we do expect to have a modest amount of public money in the project to close our gap, and those will be federal block grant funds. But again, the project is 87% privately funded and financed.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Peter. Yeah, I think that's two questions I received so far. As of the interest of time, I will give the floor to Yihan.
Thank you, Meng Ching, and thank you, Peter, for your answers. So this brings us to the end of the webinar. I listed my email address here, so if you have any questions, please feel free to email me, or if you want to talk to any member of our team, please also email me and I can connect you to them. Please check out our website listed in this slide as well. And you will see the list of tax incentives and programs we have at RTPark. Finally, I really want to thank all the panelists for your speech. You've done an amazing job of helping our clients to understand the process of the tax incentives and the programs at RTPark and our organization. I also want to thank all attendees for tuning in for the past 4 days. I hope you've gained a lot of insights and perspectives about sustainable development in the US Virgin Islands. And just as a summary, we RTPark as an economic development program not only help you to provide resources to help you accelerate and thrive in the US Virgin Islands, we also have a really dedicated and a capable team to work to help the island's economy to become more sustainable, inclusive, and safer. So with that said, I would like to have Peter to close off the 4-day sustainability webinar series. And we will also send the recordings of the webinars and the slide deck to you via email in the next few days. Peter, now I will give the floor to you to close off the webinar series. Okay. Oh, Peter, I think you're on mute.
Unmute.
You're on mute again, Peter.
Yeah, you're on mute again.
Okay. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Good.
Okay. All right. Great. So let me thank our viewing and listening audience, especially those of you who tuned in for all 4 days of this webinar. We really appreciate your very focused dedication. I also want to offer special thanks to our panelists, without whom this webinar would not have been possible. We clearly have a wealth of subject matter knowledge and expertise within our ecosystem in the areas of renewable energy, marine science, and sustainable agriculture. And as you heard from our panelists, we also have no shortage of passion for these issues. And we trust that that all of this came across in a very clear and tangible way during the course of the week. And again, we're so very grateful to our panelists for carving out the time to be part of this forum. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank the RTPark staff. So like everything we do, this was a true team effort. So I want to acknowledge a job extremely well done by an outstanding team of professionals. And as I always tell people, the only thing that I will ever boast about at the RTPark is really the quality of folks that we have brought together. We have a tremendous and dynamic mix of people from the Virgin Islands and people who are new to the Virgin Islands and who are very, very passionate about the work that we're all engaged in. And so this includes Yihan Wang, who presided over the last 4 days, and this was really her brainchild. Yihan, this was a tremendous undertaking. Sydney Paul, who is our chief of marketing and business intel, and that's just a fancy way of saying that Sydney does every darn thing, and she is our MVP. Dominique James, who is a marketing and communications advisor to the RTPark. So Dominique, thank you for your contribution to this. And of course, our incredible summer fellows from the University of Michigan, Mong Ching Khan and Brian Redding. So thanks to all of you. And finally, thank you to our viewers and listeners again. We hope that you've not only enhanced your understanding, or that we've helped to enhance your understanding of the enormous potential to grow our cluster of sustainable development enterprises in the VI, but that you've been inspired to explore with us the feasibility of joining us at the RTPark. Again, thank you for participating, and have a great afternoon. Thank you, Yihan.
Thank you, Peter.